Hello and welcome to our review of Veronica Mars. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we are discussing the episode I Know What You'll Do Next Summer. This episode originally aired May 15th, 2007. Alrighty, so let us start off with the number one song in America, which, Dave, I'm not even going to ask you about because it is still Makes Me Wonder by Maroon 5. Let us move on to the number one film in America, Dave. Any guesses what it could be? It is a sequel, but I don't know what number of sequel to a big franchise, because I have seen exactly 0 of them.
Okay. Again, with the particular series that are super popular that you've never caught on to with the things that gone on from there.
Yes. I think it's the third one, but I'm not sure.
Uh, like the only one that's coming specifically in mind is the Pirates of the Caribbean series, but again, I'm not sure which one it is.
It is Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which is...
Okay, with this one around. Oh wait, no. Yeah, with that series at that time.
Yes, they were very big at
Yeah.
the time, but I never watched... I don't think I've seen any of them. I could be wrong, but...
Yeah, and also kind of the case of either just with particular sorts of things that kind of been around and or discussed, but it's like it's been years since there's been a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So like how it's stuck in everybody's minds, I do not know.
The first 3 were directed by Gore Verbinski? Huh. That's interesting. I did not know that. That's a interesting choice. I feel like it hasn't actually been that long since there was a Pirates movie, but nobody remembers any of them after like number 3. Oh yeah, 2017 is the last one. So it has been quite a while actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Moving on to video games. May 15th, if you had a PSP, you could pick up a little game called Innocent Life, A Futuristic Harvest Moon, which is a game I don't remember, but sounds really interesting.
Cause people like Harvest Moon or farming game simulators, and they came up with the idea that let's make it farming but futuristic. And it's like, yeah, that works.
I kind of want to... Okay, so there's allegedly a PS2 version. We're doing a little quick eBay shop. Let's go to the eBay and see how much this is, because if it's stupid
I
expensive,
wish you the best. Yeah, I wish you the best, and I hope it doesn't cost you a mint.
Oh, it's not terrible. Buy it now, it's like 34 bucks. Oh, there's one for 25. Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not crazy. Okay, I might have to pick that up because it sounds interesting. Anyway, continuing on. Also on May 15th, if you had a PC, you could finally pick up Resident Evil 4.
Yes. Though I'm double checking with things because I'm not sure which particular version this is because they said on the GameCube, but then they got it on just about everything, and it depending on the amount of time, it took its time.
So it's like 2.5 years after, because it was early '05 on the GameCube.
Okay, so kind of around the similar sort of time before it started getting re-releases or other sort of particular things from there.
I think it was already on PS2 at the time, but I don't know what else it would have been on. Because the PS2
With
version, I feel like
particular
came out super quickly.
No, with that, and then of course with other particular things, though with a bit of updating, they managed to get it on the Wii.
Yeah, it's been on basically everything. And then it got a a remake in 2023, which I still haven't played. So I will have to
Which
remedy that at some point.
which in some cases is kind of really like does it specifically need it, but it's also one of those weird magical sort of cases that it's essentially that we now have two games that are decently similar, but it's a case of the old one is kind of the traditional base within the time of first rendition of it, and the second one is an updated, fixing a couple little things, but still keeping the spirit of what the original game was.
Yeah, and they've done a couple of those Resident Evil remakes on like the PS4, PS5. Because they did 2 and 3 already. So
Yes.
at some point they have to do the first one, right?
Yeah, and then of course it's also the case of the supposed zero, but then it also starts to get into territory of how far back we want to try and go with things and where to be safe with stuff and just like, ooh, how much is going to affect certain things.
Excuse me. Uh, oh, excuse me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I assume that they're going to end up doing more, but yeah. Anyway, also on May 15th, if you had a Nintendo DS, you could pick up Touch the Dead. I'd rather not, honestly.
In some cases, it's somewhat understandable since with uh, the old-fashioned game, the name escapes me, but essentially the fighting the dead zombies with the shooter-like guns, and then fancy ideas with people being like typing of the dead, and or old-fashioned Wii version sort of games with that. It's like, yeah, it's a traditional sort of games of you gotta fight the zombies, and you don't want to get bitten by the zombies, or else you die.
Oh, it's a rail shooter on the DS. That's actually not a bad choice.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Also on May 15th, if you had a PS2, PS3, or PSP, you could pick up MLB 07 The Show. Because I know how much you love baseball games, Dave.
Oh my gosh, it's a baseball game. The only other one that I actually know of is the one that has Mario characters with it.
Yes, I will say that the MLB games that Sony has been making for like probably 20 years at this point are actually usually very good. Also on May 15th, this is one that you brought up before we started recording. If you had a Nintendo DS, you could pick up Etrian Odyssey.
Yes, with this particular series. It was the slight case of it was one of the series that revitalized the gameplay style of old fashioned dungeon crawler, of basically first person view, traveling through particular sorts of stuff, and being lost in a dungeon and having to make your way through it with DS functionality of seeing things on screen but having to map your way through stuff.
Okay. Okay. Apparently, it also got a remastered version released on Switch and PC in 2023. So maybe go check that out because it sounds really cool.
Yes, with this particular series, one of the big popular ones that had a multitude of different sequels and other similar gameplay style ones that came out when during the DS and into the 3DS series with that. It was one of the series that I sadly never got much into, but heard a decent amount of stuff about.
It does sound interesting. I will probably end up checking that out if I can still get it on PC.
Though additionally, you must be ready because it is anime. It cannot be helped.
Oh, anime bullshit. God damn it. Okay. Moving on to May 16th, if you had a Xbox and you were connected to the internet, you could pick up Aegis Wing. I don't know how you're meant to pronounce that. But
Yeah, with this particular one.
oh, it's a
Seen it a
scrolling
decent amount
shooter.
of times with yeah, with the multitude of times seeing it going through Xbox Live Store before the shutdown happened, just like, something there. But then, of course, with the multitude of the ones that are out there, it's like you could get it elsewhere, just maybe not this one specifically.
Fair enough. Also, if you had an Xbox Live account on May 16th, you could pick up Soltrio Solitaire. I guess if you really like Solitaire, you could play it on your Xbox.
Something and like the supposed fanciness of a game giving additional animated effects to the particular things, but like, yeah, it's solitaire. It's also understandable because it's solitaire.
Yeah. Okay. Also on May 16th, if you had a Nintendo DS, you could pick up Sudokuro. I don't know. There is no article on it. I have no idea. I'm assuming it's some kind of like Sudoku like puzzle game.
Yeah. Again, not ringing any sort of bell from me seeing it there.
Okay. Also on May 16th, if you had a PS2, you could pick up Taito Legends 2.
And
I'm wondering.
again, only recognizing one of the particular characters, but this particular arcade series putting out a collection series of their games.
Okay, Lunar Rescue, Balloon Bomber. There's some stuff here I'm at least somewhat familiar with, but most of it is not so much.
Mm.
Okay. Moving on. May 17th, if you had a PSP, you could pick up Taito Legends Power Up. In case you couldn't get enough of old Taito games at home. Again,
Supposedly,
there's
yeah.
maybe one or two that I recognize, but not a ton here.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So that is it for video games. Let us move on to the episode. Alrighty then. Veronica and Piz hang out at her house. Keith tests Veronica on her upcoming private investigator exam, and Piz states that he is interviewing a former child soldier and her student, Apollo, for his radio show. Keith informs his deputies that a robbery wave has been occurring. Piz interviews the student before telling Veronica that he has been offered an internship by Pitchfork Media. Veronica receives a 95 on her PI exam before being called by a man stating that Apollo might be his son. Keith speaks to a suspect in some of the robberies and discovers that he is connected to the Fitzpatricks. Logan meets Parker's parents, who are very uptight. Veronica speaks to Apollo, posing as a reporter for the school newspaper. Finding that Apollo's mother's handwriting is very similar to the letter his father claimed to have from his mother. Logan tells Parker that he will not be seeing her during the summer because he will be on a surfing trip with Dick. Mac and Max, which is not confusing at all to try and say, spend all their time together. Piz tells Veronica about another internship in Neptune, but she dodges his attempts to ask which one he should take. Keith meets Liam Fitzpatrick, who states that the robberies will not stop. Apollo learns that Veronica was not assigned by the school paper, and Veronica tells him the truth, but he refuses a paternity test. Some people begin to grow dissatisfied with Keith's handling of the robberies, while Apollo's father, claimant, appears in Neptune. Veronica searches for Apollo, learning from his former roommate that Apollo did not actually write the book, and he was never a child soldier. However, Wallace urges her not to expose him as a hoax, as his book is actually helping charities that aid child soldiers, and honestly, in the end, it's probably justifiable. At the job fair,
Yeah.
Wallace is seen signing up for Invisible Children, Inc. Apollo tells Veronica that he does actually want the paternity test. Dick's father, who is involved in some corporate crime, appears and berates him for planning to go on a surfing trip during the summer, right before he will be going to jail. Apollo takes the paternity test, but the alleged father doesn't show. However, Apollo informs Veronica that he was actually a child soldier, enlisting his former roommate to tell her that he wasn't so that he can ensure his father was genuine and not just trying to get a handout. The only reason the father did not show for the paternity test was that he was detained for driving a car with a license plate from a stolen car that was switched at some point.
Yeah.
Apollo and his father meet at the sheriff's office, where they have an emotional reunion. Dick angrily confronts his father, but the next time he is seen, he calls off his trip with Logan. Logan tells Parker the news, and she is disappointed. After seeing an ad for Vincent Van Lowe's campaign for sheriff, Veronica gets the news that she has been accepted into the FBI's internship program. So, what do we think of this episode?
Yeah. Still slight kind of cases of within the story, the couple particular things kind of building up that the Fitzpatricks are
Have you cut out again, Mr. David? You seem to have cut out. That is not ideal.
That the name is escaping me. The Vincent. That he might supposedly have hands in things, but still preliminary at preliminary at the moment, and just the multitude of things that are building up with life happening, the people going away, and people having to make decisions of what they want to do with their lives. Which Veronica getting into the FBI stuff is hooray, but also kind of the case of she got to be away and the decisions with the relationship stuff and stuff. Yeah, it's one of those episodes.
Yes, it is. It is very much one of those episodes. And at the very end of the episode, we have a short PSA from some of the cast talking about the work of Invisible Children Inc., which is an actual charity that you can support by following the link below. So they basically deal with, child soldiers and shit. That's really horrible. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that, because that's fucking miserable.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's not much, like you said, not a ton about this episode, although I do enjoy the relationship between Mac and Max. I just wish that they had named Max's character something else, because it's annoying.
Somewhat understandable. 3-letter name. Same starting letter. Just too many M's.
Too many M's and too many names that sound the same. All right. So, if there's nothing else about this episode, next week we'll be discussing the penultimate episode of Season 3 and of the original run of the series. Weevils wobble, but they don't go down. In this episode, Weevil is going to enlist Veronica's help in proving his innocence when he is implicated in creating fake student IDs. Meanwhile, Veronica and Piz come to terms with Veronica's FBI internship, and a sex tape of this couple is released on the internet. Logan beats up Piz, thinking that he posted it. In addition, Keith and Vinny debate on Piz's radio show about the upcoming sheriff's election, in which they are running against each other. So I'm sure there will be no drama in this episode. None whatsoever.
No, what are you thinking? Within this particular series? No drama.
Nope, none at all. So if there is nothing else, I've been Paul.
And I've been Dave.